Thanks for joining today in our AWS Partner Dev Day. We have our operational analytics demo today, and I am your host, Sugandhan Bharati. I am the Partner Solutions Architect at SingleStore. I'm joined by two great partners of mine, Saurabh Shanbag and Sebastian Fabry. Guys, if you guys want to say hi um, to our lovely audience today.
Hi, this is Saurabh Shanbag. I'm a partner solution architect at AWS, and I work with partners like SingleStore to develop joint solutions on AWS, as well as enhance those solutions and get customers integration into that. Yeah.
Thank you, Saurabh.
Hi,
Sebastian.
I'm Sebastian Fabry. I do a very similar job, but I do it for Looker. So I work with SingleStore to make sure that integration is working really, really well, and to be able to kind of demonstrate together how algorithm technologies complement each other.
Thank you. And guys, I really feel lucky to be a part of this A team. Saurabh and Sebastian have been great partners. We worked on many projects before, and we'll do so in the future. So,
Right.
without further ado, today's agenda, we have a handful here. I'm going to go through the introduction, give you guys a lay of the land of who we are, what we do at SingleStore, and then go into the workshop preparation and prepare those databases, get those skeletons set up, and then we're going to take a little bit of break. Give everybody some chance to go refill your beverages. And I know with breaks can also come some relaxed time. It can feel a lot at times, but we are always here. Know that. And any questions you have, please point it towards us, and we'll be happy to assist. We have our team always monitoring the chat so that you can ask the questions. Then we are going to go into the building the analytical solution. We're going to set up the database and load the data and deploy a real-time stored procedure. Then we're going to do a time check if you need a break, see how folks are feeling, and then give you guys a break. Then we're going to come back, and our awesome Saurabh is going to take us through our glue step, wherein he'll showcase the AWS Glue ETL steps that he's built, and then we're gonna see how SingleStore works well with Glue and the Spark connector, which is native, and then we're gonna break again and go into Looker, where everybody would be visualizing the data that's coming through, and then we're gonna clean up some AWS resources. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited to go through this. So this is how the remote workshop would be taught today. Each student should go ahead and download the handouts that we have in the handout section of your GoToWebinar. There should be two. One's a student guide, and the other is the presentation that we are going through right now. Both are in PDF formats, and you guys should both have it. Having that would save you guys a ton of work of typing, first of all, and that also gives you a document that you can go back and refer to. So each step will be taught in a lecture. Then I'll introduce you guys to the topic and walk you through the theory of it, and then I'll demo it with the code itself, and then also walk you through the code. Then you guys can attempt it to follow along, and if you guys feel like you guys get a grasp, then you can also feel free to jump ahead in the steps and do it yourself. And we're always there, just know this. And if you get stuck, we're here to help you. And the resources that you'll be creating today, there's enough credits to keep them running for a little bit. So the SingleStore resource that you'll create should have a 30-day window where you can still come back and finish the clusters and work with it, play with it. Similarly for your Looker and your AWS parts. So don't feel pressured to, if you cannot follow along, you'll always have time to finish it. And also for questions, we would not be using the questions tab. Please enter your questions in chat. And as I said, our team will be monitoring the chat, and see any questions that are coming in, and we'll be able to answer them or bring it up so that we can answer them. So please do ask any questions in chat. At this moment, are there any questions, Diego?
Nope, we're good.
Awesome. Great. So Diogo is our coordinator as well from the SingleStore side. He helps tremendously with these events. And there's also a link to an iSpreadsheet where students can go grab their AWS credit and also a Looker login and password. So I would like to give a couple of minutes for the students to go access that sheet, which will be pasted in the chat section of your GoToMeeting control panel. If you guys can still see my screen, I'm pulling it up. So yes, that's the CryptoPad sheet. Please go grab yourself a row, and it's an honor system, so grab one for each, and make sure you put your name across it so that that slot is taken. And I would request you to keep with you in a separate text pad your Looker ID and password, and also the AWS credit code. And so Rob shortly will be able to get you those code and be able to apply it. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that, and we recommend that you apply it to your personal account, because I know with corporate it might be a little harder. And I'm going to give one more minute for folks to go in and get those codes. And while we're doing that, so Rob, do you want to take over the screen and show them how to apply this credit?
Sure, yeah, let me go over that.
Sure, let me hand over the screen to you.
So you can see here, it's very easy. If you can go to Amazon, aws.amazon.com /AWS credits, you will come up on this page where if you don't have an account, you can create an AWS account by using sign up for AWS account. And if you already have an account, log in into it, or if you when you click redeem credit, it will basically send you to the login page, so you can go and log into your page. Or if you already have logged in page, then it will send you to the billing page where you would be able to apply that credit. You can click the redeem credit here and apply the promotion code, and do the fill in the security code, and that would basically apply it on your account. Why we say that apply it on your personal account is probably we are doing some exercises on with your AWS account, and it would need to create an IAM role. We just wanted to be safe that because it's a sandbox kind of environment, if you don't have those rights on your corporate account, we are giving this credit so that you can go ahead, test things out, how things work in your personal AWS account. If you think you already have these access on your, if you already have a sandbox corporate account, you can go ahead and you use that as well. Otherwise, just use your personal account. These credits would apply to your account. So try to apply this before you do the exercises, because how it works is if you have some spending, and you think that, okay, after a month when the bill is coming to come up, you will apply that. It won't, apply retroactively. So apply it before, so you already have credits in your account, which will be applied to your bill. You won't be consuming all of the credits here. We are providing more credits than you need for today's lab. And what you would do is, if you can spend that over for other exercises which you want to play and explore with AWS as well. Uh, and I would recommend after this, because we are using CloudFormation template, you can even get the AWS associates off, so you can do a cleanup exercise at the end. Or you probably would want to keep this for a while. You want to play it with a little bit. You can keep it because these credits should cover that part. Yeah.
Thank you, Saurabh. And guys, as you can tell, like all the credits that you have should give you enough to go through these exercises and also have it even further than today. So let me take back the control. Thank you, Saurabh, for going through it. I'm gonna hit present in a second, and we're gonna go on. So yeah, we're here. We have the spreadsheet link here, and you can always go back to the spreadsheet, grab that looker ID and your credit score, credit code, and apply it, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. So I'm gonna go through the introduction. Like I said, we're gonna have a round of who we are, and what we're doing here. Why operationalize machine learning? You can build models, and these models are fully effective when you operationalize them. When the new data comes in, and this machine learning model gets scores the new data, and then you can get valuable insight. Some of the uses that you can use this operation by operationalizing machine learning is predictive maintenance. We have demos that show your wind turbines that may need frequent checks, and you if you have built a model to go find out when you need to go send the service people to work on those wind turbines, you save some time and you can do some planning. You can also do personalization activities, as in when the customer comes to your website, if you have a fast database, you'll already know what that person likes, and customize that so that your conversion rates improve. You can cross sell and upsell, so the more you know about your customers, you can also sell them extra, and also get those features and unlock your true potential of the data, the story that it tells, and eventually you'll end up improving your customer service. So those are some of the features that you get by operationalizing machine learning. And what we have at SingleStore here is a unified database for fast analytics. So for the use cases that cannot wait and won't wait, those are the ones that that SingleStore does justice to. And we have a great partnership with AWS, and we have great wins with us together. And we are used, and we're climbing up the ladder slowly but fast. Slowly but fast. That's SingleStore is used for predictive analytics and IoT analytics. So as the data comes in, we are able to stream it at extreme pace and get that data into our database and use it and be available, make it readily available for you to consume it in many use cases. So some of the use cases that we see are real-time analytics, operational BI, ad hoc data discovery, machine learning driven analytics, and historical reporting. And I can tell you already that we work with Looker and uh, um other dashboarding tools out there seamlessly at high speed. So you're going to see how we're going to get the data and visualize it in Looker today. But what I really want you guys to focus is the speed and agility that we can scale this as more and more events come in. You're going to see it in a little bit. This slide explains us and compares us to the other databases out there. We are considered a modern, ready for analytics database, and we see that our competitors, like MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database, like Oracle, which is highly expensive and cannot truly do justice to speed as we can, and then Postgres also, which is widely used in the industry, but our performance and speed and total cost of ownership, which means the bang for your buck, highly increases with SingleStore. We work really well with the services in AWS. Our ecosystem, as you know, AWS's ecosystem is vast, and they have Aurora for OLTP application, and Redshift for your data warehouses. We complement them. We are a hybrid data store, which means we do transactional and analytics and the same single same single place, and hence the name SingleStore. We also can ingest data from streaming services like Kafka. We work really well with SageMaker, and you're gonna have a look at how well we work with SageMaker and the models that we've built in the appendix section of your student guide. We can go through that. We have since we're restricted by time, that's a homework today. Please go through the handout and look at your appendix section, which will walk you through how to create that SageMaker demo. We can spin up instances, EC2 instances. We are S3 compatible, and we work with multiple um, services that AWS offers. So our SingleStore managed services is listed in the marketplace, and we call ourselves a cloud native database. We work with the cloud ecosystem. We work with on-prem. We also can be deployed in Kubernetes and Docker. So at any scale, and ultra fast event to insight performance is what we pride ourselves at. Uh, this slide explains how well we work with the AWS ecosystem a little better. So on the top left, you have the ETL tools like Glue, Informatica. So you can consume that data coming into SingleStore from those services. You can also consume through what we have, a pipeline, which is as native as creating a database is, or creating your stored procedures are. So pipelines is a first-class citizen that can consume data from S3, your Kafka, your Hadoop system, or your file system. You can directly load it into it. It's highly parallel, and we have boosted the ingestion, so you get the highest speed of ingestion using a pipeline. We can also be deployed, like I mentioned before, as our managed services in the cloud in AWS, and we can also be deployed on-prem. We work really well with the machine learning and AI modeling services, the SageMaker, Forecast, and Personalize. We also connect on the top right. You can see the dashboarding tools. Today, we're going to walk you through Looker, but we also have integrations with the others out there. We have a world-class Spark connector that can connect to your Spark ecosystem and bring in the data and augment it at a very high pace. I'm also excited to announce that in July of this year, we announced one of our biggest milestones, which is adding a bottomless concept to our database, our data store, which basically means that we can now send and store data in our S3 object store, uh, which enables us to unlock that bottomless potential, which means that we can have unlimited point in time recovery, if you can think about it. So say you have your snapshots stored in your object store, you have configured it right, you can go back to any time in history. So it's our CEO likes to call it as a time machine, if you may. So anytime your database crashes, be rest assured that um, we'll be able to recover your database the last instance. And we also augment that with our block storage, so you get the best performance regardless. There's no knobs that you'll have to turn. It comes with flexible pricing, credit-based pricing, which rolls over every month, so you don't have to worry about it. You will only pay for what you use. So this slide talks about what we're going to go through today. We have our operational dashboard, the New York taxi cab dashboard. It simulates what in real life is a New York taxi cab event. The great city of New York, you have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of taxis that are out there, and we're going to simulate how a driver is connected to his app, and a passenger or somebody requests a ride, and we're going to simulate them through a Kafka topic. And then we also have our neighborhood data, which is in S3, which is also a Polygon data, which has all the boroughs of New York divided into lat longs and polygons. So we are able to also work with geospatial data, um, and we're going to be streaming it through Kafka pipelines and using our machine learning and running analytics in from SingleStore. At a high level, this is our architecture. So as I said, the Kafka topics is going to be streaming into a SingleStore using the pipelines. We're going to visualize that in Looker, but we have a few steps in the middle wherein we make that data go through the models that we've built in SageMaker and score it, and then store it back into SingleStore and use that data into visualizing beautiful dashboards with Looker, where Sebastian will walk you through what he's created. So by the end of it, this is how your screen would look with your activities. These are the dashboards and the cards that you will see. We have the neighborhoods shown in the bottom right, which is fed by the polygons, the lat longs that are in the neighborhood table. And we also have some stats that we'll be creating today that can be used in our Looker lab. That's a good introduction. This is a good time for us to break. We are still here, and I just want to mention once more for the people who just joined in that there is a iSpreadsheet that has your AWS credit code and also your login login ID and password. Please go ahead and grab yourself one and sign up against it. Put your name on it, and it's an honor system. If you cannot use more than one, so please go ahead and grab that, and we'll see you back in about 10 minutes. Let's give us 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. We're still here. We're still monitoring the chat section. So in case you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll be able to answer. So let's take a quick 10 and come back. All right. Let's continue. We're going into the workshop preparation step. So if you guys haven't had a chance to download the student guide, please do so from the handout section of your GoToWebinar control panel. You also will have access to these slides that we're going through in a PDF format. That's for you guys to come back and revisit. Here's how the preparation step is phased out. So you're going to go in, you will follow the steps that is in the student guide, which will give you screenshots and also the actual code that you will be entering in, and you can follow along. So we'll be setting up that environment right now. These are the steps. So your AWS account will access the S3, SageMaker, Glue, and Cloud Shell. The SageMaker part, like I mentioned before, is in the appendix section of our student guide, and you will see the steps of how to create an IAM role, how we built that solution and the model. You'll be able to do it yourself. You'll be able to follow along, and then we have prepared that for this presentation, and we'll be using the Glue ETL tool to showcase what we did in the machine learning model and then how the data is coming in. We'll also be able to connect and score real-time data. We'll be using the Cloud Shell to access our SingleStore cluster and interact with it. So I hope you guys have had a chance to download the student guide and presentation deck. I hope you guys are logged into your AWS account and have decided, first of all, which one to use. If it's the corporate account, as Saurabh mentioned, you may have permissions, you may not have permissions. It's best to use your personal account and apply the $100 credit that we have. You'll be able to use this credit for a while. Um, uh, so be sure to grab it and apply it. and then we'll also go in and launch our SingleStore fully managed cluster in AWS. And I'll show you how easy it is to go in and sign up for a SingleStore account, and from there, from the customer portal, how you can create a cluster and connect it with the Cloud Shell. And then we'll do some ETLing with Glue and Spark preparation. Saurabh's going to walk us through it, and we'll launch our Cloud Shell service. So let's get to the first step, and I hope everybody's downloaded the student guide and presentation deck. If not, there's all my GitHub also has access to this data. So my GitHub, the link is also embedded in the Dev Day GitHub link text. So feel free to go check it out. This is the bucket that we'll be using today. All the code is under the section B folder, which will give you the scripts to generate your tables, generate your pipelines, and your other queries that we'll be going through today. Within that README, you'll see this a link to the presentation deck and the student guide. So I hope you guys have had a chance to use this. We already did this. So Saurabh already showed you how to apply this $100 credit. So I'm going to blaze through this. If you don't have a sign up account, if you don't have an AWS account, please sign up for one and then apply this credit. You will see this credit in your in the spreadsheet, iSpreadsheet link. Obtain one, use the redeem credit, and we can also you need to also be able to add a user to do this workshop. So I hope you have a IAM role that will allow you to create the resources that we need for today. Saurabh, do you still want to go through once more how to redeem the credit for the people who just joined? Would you mind doing it again?
Yeah, let me go through that.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, you can just type in AWS credits even in Google. It'll land you on this page. So if you haven't logged in on your AWS account, that's also okay. If you don't have an AWS account, just create one. It would ask for your credit card details, but because you will be using credits, you would be applying credits to your account. You won't be charged for today's session, and there would be some credits left over as well. So once you click on redeem credits, if it's your personal account, you would be having access to billing. So what we see with attendees who use corporate accounts and they want to use these credits, you can probably share that with your billing department. That's also fine if you want to, if you have access to the credit, access in your corporate account and you want to share that, that's fine. But on your personal, you can use this for sandbox, as a sandbox and use other services as well. So once you click on redeem credit, it'll take you to the billing page, and on the billing page, you would see there is option to redeem credits. Here, you would be able to put in your promo code, which is shared with you, and you have written your name across. So you please, like based on the honor system, just use that code and put in the security check list. So this would keep the credits active on your account, and any activity which you would be doing $200 limit would be charged against this. And only then, if you are running AWS resources and you have them active, you'll be charged. But with this exercise at the end, we would also go through the cleanup. So if you clean up your resources, you wouldn't be charged after that, and you will be have credits left over to do other activities. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, again hand it over to you, Sugandhan.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. Are you guys able to see my screen now? Going into present mode. Okay, great. Now for the step where we launch our fully managed cluster. So if you go to portal.singlestore.com, which if Diego can you help type that into the chat so people can have access to it. Please go ahead and create yourself an account if you don't have one. It's a very simple, straightforward process. You just enter your email and pick a password. You'll get an email, and here you don't have a restriction. You can use your corporate account or your private account email. And what we would need is for you to go ahead and authorize that account. So you'll get an email with a link that is going to let you authorize, and you will be able to log into portal.singlestore.com, and you will see a screen like this. Let me go ahead and pull up that screen. So this is my portal. Everybody should have a screen that looks like this. Everybody gets a $500 credit. As you can tell, mine's a little depleted, but that's 2 days worth of your clusters running. So you have plenty of time and resources and credits to extend your cluster for a month and, fully understand and dig deeper and dive into our product. So I'm going to give everybody a second to get on this page where it looks just like this. And then I'm going to walk you through the next steps of creating a database cluster. So just another minute here for everybody to log in and get to this page. And creating a cluster is very easy, guys. So there is a plus icon that's on the left of the screen that's under clusters, or there's also a button that is a create database cluster button on the top right, or there's one staring right at you in the middle of the screen. So you can create a cluster with all these 3 buttons, and it'll take you to this page. So pick a name. I'm going to call it AWS Dev Day cluster, and you'll have free trial credits. Make sure you're choosing AWS here, and you can pick a region, but I'm going to just leave it at default, which is the US East 1 Northern Virginia region. We have different cluster sizes here, and I want you guys to take a look at at this screen that I'm showing right now. The S00 is our basic cluster, which has 2 vCore CPUs, 16 gigabits of RAM, and don't worry about the price. You will get it all under the free tier. So we can go up to 256. I know that the last few are grayed out. In case you want to use them, get in touch with us, or you can you can email us, write to us, and we can have that available to you. We just want to make sure that we understand the use case, and we help you with that kind of setup. So please go ahead. And as I mentioned before, bottomless is by default an AWS option that we have. So your storage is going to be unlimited here, and it comes with its own perks. So you can have unlimited point in time recovery. You can also have object storage, as it comes with a great cost benefit. So we have bottomless enabled in our AWS cluster. So after everybody's filled this in, I just want to give you guys one more second to see if you guys have pick the S00 for our use case today. S00 should be sufficient. You'll still be able to see how fast we can ingest data with the smallest size of the cluster. And then if you hit next, you will be taken to your admin password section, wherein you can put in the password. I'm gonna put in my password. Remember this password, or you can also generate a strong password. But for this purpose, I would highly recommend you remember this password, because we're going to use it in the connection that we need. And by default, SingleStore picks your specific IP and only allows that IP. For this lab, I'm going to have it allow access from anywhere, so that we can rest assured that we'll be able to connect to this cluster and perform all our activities without any access issues. So please go ahead and allow access from anywhere. This is all in the slides as well, so you will be able to follow along, or if you missed a step, you'll be able to refer it back into the student guide. And once you hit create cluster, you will see it starting to deploy on the top. It'll take you to this page automatically. So I want to just go over what we did. It's at 5% now. So by the time, I'm going to try and time it so that I can walk you through this in the presentation, and also give you time to get to that cluster start. So this is the screen that you would see as soon as you come in to our portal, and then you can hit create database, pick a name, free trial, S00, pick a region, and then select a password, allow access from anywhere. That's the step that I want you guys to be. And after you do that, hit create cluster, and you will see it trying to get deployed. So once your cluster is fully up, you will see that your cluster is fully up. While your cluster is getting up, I want to go into your I want you all to go into your AWS account, and I'm gonna just authenticate myself. Give me a second, and I can be in. All right. So if you go into your AWS account, I want you guys to start your Cloud Shell, which is this icon that I'm pointing over, hovering over my mouse right now. If you hit that, you will be able to access the AWS Cloud Shell, which is super useful. And we're going to use Cloud Shell to connect to our database, our cluster that we just created. The good thing about Cloud Shell is it comes with a Git and MySQL compliant, MySQL drivers installed. So I want to just announce to the group here that we are MySQL and MariaDB wire compatible. We can connect to any tools that use MySQL and MariaDB connection. So we have ANSI SQL. We use ANSI SQL to interact with our database. So you don't and it's the most widely used language out there for databases. So you don't have to go and learn a new language. And now, as my Cloud Shell is up, what I want you guys to do here is to go to the student sheet, and you will be able to see it on page. One sec. Let me find it. The GitHub repository here. So, oops. I'm going to give you guys the GitHub um, here. Um, uh, should go here, and so here. I'm going to type this in the chat. You can also use the other one. It's got the same data in it, but here. So it's in the chat. So I have already cloned my AWS Looker Dev Day GitHub. So please go ahead and use git clone, the link that I have sent in the chat, to clone my GitHub and CD into it. And you should see section B and the README and the template. I'm going to give guys a quick second to do that. And while I do that, I see that my cluster is already up. And you can see that, you know that your cluster is up when you have your cluster has been created successfully online message showed in the portal on the top. So I hope everybody's able to follow and is able to bring up their clusters by now. I'll give everybody a minute to go through it. And then we're going to see how to connect to our cluster as the next step. So if you go back here and CD into section B, you will see that these are all the scripts that you have and that I have under the section B. So we have a lot of scripts. Your student guide also walks you through this step, and it should have where my GitHub is and how to connect to it. And everybody should be able to access it and see all these scripts. And let me open the student guide. And we're in section B, which is page 21 of your student guide. Just for folks to do that. All right. So while you guys see this screen, I want you guys to access this button that's called connect. And when you hit that, you're already going to see the MySQL command that is ready for you to connect using any Cloud Shell or any environment any Linux environment. So make sure you hit the copy button, which comes in handy. You also have other connection strings. So there are multiple ways you can connect to our cluster. You can use a SQL IDE. You can also use your app to connect to us. So we have provided you all the required connection strings for you to be able to access your cluster. If you're trying to get to the BI tool, you can get this. So various ways to connect to your cluster. We're going to use the CLI client, which is the Cloud Shell here, and paste the string. And once you paste it, it's going to ask for a password. This is the password that you used to connect to your while you created the cluster. I'm in. So as you can tell, the MySQL client is working, and I am able to connect to the cluster. You can also connect to your cluster using what we have called our Studio. It's a great UI that that you can access using the monitoring tab. So in your cluster comes up, you see this screen, and then you hover over to monitoring, and you click monitoring, and then you click this open SingleStore Studio, and you will have access to this studio. Your cluster name pulls up, and the default username is admin, and you would need to enter your password here that you entered while creating the cluster, and also while you're trying to join or link it with the Cloud Shell, you will be asked for that same password. So make sure you remember that password, and you will see this screen in the studio, which will have access to your dashboard. This is the dashboard that we're at. And then you can also see what are the databases. It comes with a default information schema database, and you also are able to type in your create statements and your SQL statements here in the SQL editor. I'll walk you through a couple of queries that we can edit in the SQL editor and run them through here. But for now, I'm going to refer to the sheet for what's the next step, and have you guys set up the table and the skeleton as I talked about previously. We're in that step. We're creating our databases, we are creating our tables, we're creating our pipelines, we are getting ready for the preparation. This is where we get our hands dirty, guys. So real excited for what's coming right now our way. So from that sheet, let's quickly look into our create New York taxi tables, the DDL. And if you hit raw, it'll be even better. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a New York taxi cab database, and then use it, create some tables, drivers, neighborhoods, trips. A drivers table has the data for all the drivers, their names, their last name, their location. The neighborhoods table has the different boroughs of New York with our polygons. It has different lat long specifications. Our trips table is contains data, is going to be fed by the trips pipeline, which essentially brings in the riders that are trying to get a taxi in New York, and they request them via your app or however you've designed it, and that data is currently being fed through a Kafka pipeline. So we are simulating an event wherein a user tries to order a taxi to go somewhere. And then we have some other tables here. We have our trip totals, we have our average passenger wait time, and other tables that will, if you are the app developer or if you own this application, there are some stats that is of interest to you, and we've tried to create some of the tables and make that skeleton ready. So let's go ahead and source this table, or source this create yes. If you don't want to type it in, you can also copy paste it from your student guide. You'll see the tables are being created right now, and they're fast. Okay, let's walk through these steps. So you can see that these tables are created. We have our average cost. It's alphabetically ordered, and we have what is of main interest for us right now is drivers, neighborhoods, and trips. What we're going to do is see some data by creating some pipelines and making them flow into. So I have created the pipelines, and if you follow the student guide, folks, you will see that all this is in the student guide, and I'm just going through these steps to show you guys how and what we're creating. So we just created 3 pipelines: drivers, trips, and neighborhoods. These 3 pipelines are being fed through or fed from a Kafka event streaming service. So we have a public repository, we have our Kafka services that are feeding data, pumping data into the pipelines at a really high rate, and you're going to see it in a second of how we do it and the rates that we can get. So I just started the pipelines. If you do show pipelines again, you're going to see previously when I did show pipelines, the state was stopped and the scheduled was false. So we had just created the pipelines at that time. Now we're going to start those pipelines, or we already started those pipelines, and I'm going to show you the state of it. So we have the pipelines running. We have the data being fed into our tables. One of the ways that we can do a check is I'm just going to limit 10. You will have to use NYC taxi and then select. So you see that I can see the driver's data come in. You can also do that for trips, and you see some of the status, the different accept time, drop off time, some of the location. So all this are geographical locations. They come in a lat long pair. So the we are able, SingleStore is able to consume geolocation data, polygon data. So I can also show you guys. So that's geographic data. That's how it gets printed out. So we have our tables and we have the data flowing in. I'm gonna give folks a second to follow along and give them time to ingest data into these tables. And again, it's all in the student guide, guys. So please feel free to do it at your own pace. If you feel this is slow, you can even skip ahead. It'd be really cool. If you get stuck anywhere, we are here for you. Hit us up in the chat and we'll be able to answer any questions there. Now that we've inspected our neighborhoods data, what we can do is run some of the other queries that we have here. So total trips. I'm going to walk you through what's in this query really quick. So some of these queries, I'm also going to walk you through the pipelines because that's important. What we did here was we created this pipeline. We loaded data from a Kafka topic. This is the Kafka topic that is pumping data into the driver's table, and we give them a batch interval of 2500 milliseconds, and then the data is going into our drivers table. Some of the field details, like it's terminated by comma, so it's a CSV. It has it's escaped by characters and everything. So we have data flowing from the Kafka pipeline into our table using this topic. And we also have data from an S3 location that's pumping it into our neighborhoods. It's a polygon data. So we are able to consume data from different file sources, maybe Kafka, maybe S3. So pipelines, as I said before, is a first-class citizen to our SingleStore database. So it's not an added feature. It comes with the database, and it's developed highly improve your speed of ingest. And that's one of the fastest ways to load data into our database. And we were doing average wait. So it just rounds up the average wait time of your customers. What's the so you're able to do math in our data, And one of the cool parts about SingleStore and why it's fast, I would like to let you in on a secret, is we do all the math in the compressed data. So it doesn't need to fully, unlike other databases out there, it doesn't need to uncompress before it does any kind of math function to get you results. So that's one of the reasons why we're fast, along with several others. Please go through the SingleStore website to understand and find out why we are faster. It's a very neat website that's developed recently or revamped recently. I really like the looks. So going back into your student guide, you can also do several other queries, and in the interest of time, I'm going to reduce the number of queries that I'm going to do here. It can be a homework, and we're going to go into step 2. And for step 2, what I would like to do is create a stored procedure. And as I said before, so your pipelines can also feed into a stored procedure and create data as it comes. So what we're going to do here is source the derived stats, and I'm going to go through what derived stat is for a quick second. So it first deletes any data that's already in. It's a stored procedure, and we loop data coming in and scoring each data as it comes in. So we have our total trips, we have our average passenger wait time. We're going to take all of that, and we are going to send that data into the stored procedure, and it also has a sleep function which gives it a few seconds before it can generate the next code. So for this, I would want you guys to start a new Cloud Shell because it's going to start pumping data. So please go ahead and create yourself another Cloud Shell wherein you will already have the SingleStore GitHub. That's how I got it. So I had it from my previous session, and you should be able to CD into section B. And by now, you guys might remember this, that you would have to grab that connection string from the portal and then paste it here, so you can get into our SingleStore cluster. And once you've done that, go back and copy the derived stat. Okay, now that I've copied it, it's not started yet, so there is another script that starts it. What we just did was create the derived stat SQL stored procedure. Now we're going to start it. All right, our first stat was generated. Now it's going to sleep and then start back up. I'm going to show you in this screen. Actually, show tables. It's empty right now. So once we are done with this step of ETLing and the glue Spark connector, getting this derived stat, and it will start putting data into your NAB NYC taxi score table, and then we'll come back and we'll see that we have data flowing through. So for now, let's go back to our presentation, and I'm going to blaze through what we did just here, and we are going to get ready with our glue step. And with that, I'm going to change the presenter to Saurabh. Saurabh, are you ready?
Yeah, so I before we go into that, I'll just presently mention that we would be, for today's lab, what we would be doing is Let me share my video as well. Yeah. So for today's lab, what we are going to do is we are going to go through, a SageMaker step which I have already done. So this is a part of appendix. What we have is a New York taxi data, which is a publicly available data, which has a number of taxis coming in every day, every half an hour. So we have that data available. And what we did is we had the random cut forest model run on it. And what we basically got out of it is we were able to find any anomalous data. We looked at standard deviation of 3 based on all the input data which was coming in, got a score, and look at standard deviation of 3 and find out if there was anomalous data or not. And we have that in a S3 bucket, which is already shared with you, so that you can go over this and do this through a Jupyter notebook. You can act as well. Uh, you can go over that exercise later, but today we will focus on how to actually use Glue to bring this data now, which is on Amazon S3, onto SingleStore, and do transformations on it as well, and how you can club data sources, like multiple data sources, and bring that data over to SingleStore for your further processing. Uh, so the initial step, which I want to go over is, if you have your student guide will have a link for a CloudFormation template, which is required for your Glue ETL prep. So once you click on this, you would be taken, and you have your AWS account logged into, then you'll be taken to a CloudFormation stack. It would look something very similar to this. And again, there are different AWS regions. So if you have a preferred AWS region which you work with, I would say select that. It's by default it is set to US East 1. So if you are okay with US East 1, just keep it that. And let me click on the link again here. Yeah, so by default, it will go to US East 1, and there are 2 fields which are pre-filled. Keep those in there, like NYC taxi and user as admin. What would you need is you would need the database password, which you have set up, as well as the database SingleStore database endpoint, cluster endpoint. So you can get that from your portal, your SingleStore portal. You can go to the connection details and get the database endpoint and fill those details in, and then you can click on the next. So I'll just go over here, click on the next, and you would be able to deploy this configuration. It will ask you that you acknowledge that you would want to create IAM resources, and once you select yes and create stack, it would go ahead and create the appropriate role you would need for doing the lab exercises with AWS Glue. So once you have gone through this step, I have also documented these in the student guide, so you can follow them there as well. Don't use any HTTP or additional details here when you are putting in the SingleStore cluster endpoint. And let me go back here. So once you are done with this CloudFormation step, it will take some time. I'll give you, once you have finished that, what we would need is we would need to set up your subscribe to the Glue connector for SingleStore. So we would do that as well. Let me go through the guide here. There are some steps uh, in between here. So it's step 3. It has a link for the Glue Studio console, or you can also type those details in. So if you go to the AWS console homepage, you can type in glue, which would take you there. Or actually, you can even type in SingleStore connector for AWS Glue. This would also take you to the particular Glue connector, which is there for SingleStore. You would click continue to subscribe here and continue to configuration, and you would see the version numbers. So if there are multiple versions supported in future, you would see those under here. Presently there is only one version. And in the usage instructions here, you would see activate the glue connector using AWS Glue Studio. So once you click on this, you would you would come to this page where there is a secret which would be created for you by the CloudFormation template. So once you have that run, you would see that over here. So let me go over to an account which I have already configured so that I can show those features. In here, we would go to the CloudFormation. Once you have everything running and a CloudFormation template stack is deployed, you would see that it's completed, and there and these would be like, you would be setting up your parameters. So your password and the endpoint would be different, and they would be stored in secrets manager. So that's your credentials can be stored in secrets manager, and that's the what we recommend for our customers to keep them secure. And then you can have your applications or users, just those who need access to those can have permissions to access them. So that works out really great when you have different applications running and they need access to different databases. You can have the access very limited to those applications. Here, once we go to Glue, we need to go to AWS Glue Studio. You would see a new tab under this. These are new features with AWS Glue Studio. Let's go there. And presently, I have we would be going to connectors. I have the connector configured here, but in case we want to configure them, we can add in new configuration, a new connection based in, you select the secret which is created for you. This would be what would be created for you, and set up a unique name for your connection. So I have another connection which is set up, so I'll be using that, but you can create a connection, and you can create different so if in case you have different databases, different single store databases, you can have different AWS secret manager connections, which you can set it up. For example, here I have AWS Glue Single Store Dev Day 01. You can have similar thing, which is uh, 02 or multiple ones, which you can create. And once you have these connections created, you can go to jobs, where you would be able to create a new job. So the easiest way to create a new job is, you'll select the source as Amazon S3 and target as single store connector for AWS Glue. So this would be a target, and you would do a create here. So it'll create a default visualization from S3 bucket to your single store connector. What you would need here is set up the job. So I would recommend set up a job name. So so you would be able to easily distinguish it. And there are certain things I would recommend to before you run this job. So there are some defaults which we can tweak here. So first thing is you would need to set up the IAM role. We need the proper role to have credentials for running this particular job. So we have a job role which is created from when we ran the CloudFormation template. So you would select that particular role. It will show up as SingleStore Dev Day, glue custom ETL, and there will be a random string attached to it at the end. So select that particular job role. Uh, for this, because we don't have a very large data set, we can change the number of workers to just 3. Uh, Bookmarking is another feature where, if you want to pause and partially process the data and start again from the partial location, you can use the bookmark feature. Presently, we won't need to do that because we're not doing, we will be processing all the data together. So we don't need to set this up. So we would be able to disable it. If you set this up, what might happen is if you are trying to reprocess it again, and there's no new data in the S3 bucket, it would show up as all the data is processed. And when you try to rerun this, it might not bring in the new data, the data which is already processed from S3. So having this disabled, you can, in your sandbox environment, you can reprocess the same data again. If you have enabled this, it would be only processed once. So I'm disabling this, and number of retries. So in a production environment, we would recommend having this a retry mechanism. Why? Because presently you would be testing, and there might be some if there are some bugs which you find out, I would say let's have this as 0. So we won't have retries. If there are any defects which you find out, you can correct them before running this again. So once you have this configuration, you can go back to your visual aid and select the S3 location. The S3 location is specified in the, it's a public location which is specified in the docs. So let me get that. So here, so these are the steps which go through the marketplace connection. And once we have the job details configured, I have the job details which are mentioned here, the IAM role, the number of workers, number of retries, and bookmark disabled. We went through those. Now I would keep the source node name here, and we would go back to the studio. And set this up. Let me just go, I'll just go back here and yeah. So in here I have another job which I have configured. Let me go run through that to make it a little easier. So in the S3 bucket, we would say S3 location. The other way we can do it is we can reprocess a, a data catalog table which would be S3 location as well, but you can catalog the table from before. So that's one way. Here what we are doing is we are adding a dynamic S3 location and we are processing it right when we are processing the job. So once we add this, we have a way in which we can infer the schema. So you would infer the schema automatically on this one, and we can start a data preview session as well, and you can use the same role for that. So that would basically enable you to preview the data. You would see that it uses the AWS Glue development endpoint, and the session does terminate automatically after 30 minutes. So let's do that here. So it'll take a while for the data preview session to start. For the data preview, we would there's a particular requirement at present that the string types which are supported have to be string. So I'll just rename these as strings. So these are the schema values. So I'll rename the output schema as string so that I don't have any issues with the data preview. And once we have that, we have to do some transformations here. So if we there are particular requirements on how the table output has had to be. So we have that mentioned in the student guide. So in the student guide, uh, yeah, so I'm changing all of these to string, and we have time ID. So we are doing the apply mapping transformation in which we are going to do four things. One is the anomaly, which is true or false information. Presently, we are skipping that and we will drop that particular part. We will just get this anomaly score over to SingleStore. So, and we are changing the target keys as time ID, num riders, and anomaly score. So let's do that. Yeah, the time ID is already there. So I'm the num riders and anomaly score. This one is supposed to be a double, and I believe this one was the num riders is supposed to be long. So let me set that up. And we are dropping this particular field. So if you go to the last one, the single show connector. So in this, what I have done is I've selected the connection. So if there are multiple connections, you would be able to see those here, and you would be able to select the appropriate database here, a database connection here. And then there are certain connection options which are supported. So here I'm using the DB table option, and I'm naming the DB table that NAB NYC taxi score. So this is the table. And if we go back and actually check on the cluster, presently this is the table is not there. So we have the NYC taxi information here. These are the three tables which are already there. And once we run this, the the information would be read from S3. Let me see if we have the data preview available now. Yeah, so we have the data preview. So this is the data which is coming in, and we are doing the transformation here. So we are doing the transformation. So we see the target identifiers have changed, and we do have the table information here. So yeah, we don't have the particular data preview here because this is a target system. So once we run this, the new table will be created, and we would get all the information passed on over to that. So let me run this, and we can actually see the job details as well. So if you go to run information, it would show you what is the present status, and once it's uh, completed, you would see uh, you would see the execution time and how much time it took to finish this particular job. Yeah. In case you have multiple jobs, you can also use a job scheduler from AWS Glue and have multiple jobs running. So you can do transformations. You can also bring in data from multiple sources. So you can have here I have just S3 bucket, but you can add data from Kinesis or multiple data sources and take that data over, transform that data in AWS Glue, and bring that data over to single store cluster. Yeah. So I believe this is still running. So once it's finished running, you'd see the status would change to succeeded. So I'll wait for that particular thing, and once it succeeded, we can go back to our single store studio to actually see the data in the single store studio. Let me refresh this. Yeah, so we see that the present status is succeeded. And let me go back to the single store studio. Yeah, I believe I would have to refresh here as well. Yeah, so we see that we have the table as a columnar store, which was created because that was a setting by default, and we can see the sample data in here as well, which is all the anomaly scores. It also shows the number of rider, which was the input data, and the timestamp which was there, which is shared with us. So we can easily get this data using AWS Glue, and the great advantage here is we can use streaming data as well through Kinesis and Kafka. Both those are supported in AWS Glue, as well as we can bring in data from various different data sources, because all which are supported from AWS Glue. We can also have the data coming in from single store. So if there is a use case where we want to bring in data from single store, route and transformations on it, you can and have data from other sources, append that and bring it over. You can do that as well. So with this, I'll pass it over to Sugandhar again.
Thank you, Saurabh. That was awesome. Let me grab the screen back. Thank you for going through all that. And folks, Saurabh just went through what we have in our presentation deck on slide 67. So when you are done with the steps that Saurabh just walked you through, you will see the data flowing in and the anomaly scores being generated, and uh, we can continue. So before we go into the next section, I would like to take a break. I have seen some of the questions that you guys have asked me, and I've answered them privately. So in case you're still blocked, please feel free to reach out, and I'll monitor the chats. And let's take a 10-minute break before we head to the next step and go through the student guide. Please take some time to uh, follow along and get to the step wherein you're able to see the anomaly scores being generated. You'll have all the steps you need to take to get here in the student guide and the presentation deck. So let's take 10 minutes. It's 7:36. Let's come back at 7:45 and continue. So folks, for this lab, you will need to log in, and we handed out an Excel sheet when we started this workshop. It's a CryptoPad worksheet wherein you can go and grab the AWS credit, and also on the next column you had the username password for your Looker. What we have is an environment that can simulate what an actual Looker lab will look, or Looker environment will look like, and you can use your in the actual scenario, you can use your email and password. But for now, we're requesting folks to use the username and password provided on the adjacent column to your AWS credit. So please use that to log in, and we have our awesome Sebastian walking us through the dashboard. Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Hi, great, thank you. So we got a few, while you're going through task one to actually get your password and log in and joining the instance, I posted a link to the instance in the chat just in case. I'll go through a couple of slides here to position things, and then we'll jump into the hands-on and very much sort of get started with the modeling, which is a one-step in Looker, and then from that we'll be able to create a dashboard, or the start of a dashboard really. You'll be able to finish it at your own pace in the next week or so. So one thing that's kind of interesting about Looker is that we're not just talking about visualization, right? I think that's a key differentiation for Looker. I'm not going to cover all the points here, but what I kind of enjoy talking about are probably around three things. The first one, agility, is about people being able to do self-service, but it's also people being able to simply access it online, right? So just like AWS, just like SingleStore, you access it through your browser. You don't have anything to install. Everything is remotely managed for you, and you just get to get on with it, right? Efficiency and actually governance as well. Very simple. So because we're connecting directly to the database, we're going to be leveraging SingleStore, and we don't need to take any extracts. We don't need to make copies of the data or anything like that. We'll be able to actually send the queries live to SingleStore and get our answers very, very quickly for ad hoc questions, and as well as for all the dashboards that you're building. And the way that we know how to access the data is thanks to a semantic layer, which is going to provide us with a governance as well, to ensure that whether I'm creating a report or you're creating a report, as long as everyone is using the same model, everyone will be using the same calculations, right? So it's very, very simple and straightforward to ensure that your whole business is speaking the same data language, and the numbers you're bringing to your business are going to be the same. And so those three things come together as sort of like the high-level architecture of what Looker is, and what a cloud solution should be really, right? So in database, that means leverage SingleStore directly, as well as other databases, as it says in the top left corner. But you want things to be fast, right? And you want things to be easy. Here we are. Semantic modeling layer. That's where we'll do a little bit of copy pasting to make things easier for you, but obviously it's completely customizable. So you'll be able to try that on your own and enter anything you want. And because it's completely customizable, it means that it's also completely customizable to your business needs. And it's integrated with Git, so that everyone you can actually collaborate and work together and have a version control that enables you to do that. And then lastly, on top of that, web access that I mentioned already, there's also an API, right? So if you wanted to query data, get results with this governance, with the assurance that everything's calculated the right way, you're able to actually get that data directly through API calls and then use it wherever you want. In terms of what this looks like in implementation, well, there's really nothing to implement, which is kind of the beauty of the cloud. What you need to do is simply connect your Looker instance to the SingleStore. I'll show you that briefly, right? And then that enables you to address multiple use cases. So the one we're focusing on today is modern BI analytics, so the dashboard, the self-service, exploration, etc. But we can also integrate that directly into other applications through embedding. And we can also integrate that in terms of data delivery with other the rest of the environment of the customer. Potentially even do some write backs to single stores if you need to update some values or specific values that you see in a report, those sort of things, so that you're not working in a silo. Actually, Looker is part of your ecosystem. And if you want to be presenting data externally back to your own customers, or if you want to create specific other applications, etc., Looker is very, very customizable through embedding, through APIs, and all those sort of things. And the modeling layer sits across all the use cases, so it doesn't matter what you're doing with the data, it's always going to be consistent, right? And coming back to you quickly. So here we are, here we go. Advantages are Looker can actually leverage single stores directly and very efficiently, right? We're optimizing the SQL that we're writing by collaborating with the engineer single store, make sure that we're writing things in the best way. You're able to access that data in real time, and you're able to actually ask any question that you want, and Looker is going to take care of you writing that SQL for you based on what you've declared, right? So you're still controlling the SQL, but you're also making it available for users that don't know SQL. I think that's kind of key thing. And then lastly, you're able to actually leverage all the functionality of SingleStore, right? So we'll actually use the geospatial function in a minute because we'll be working with this taxi data that you've imported. But other things like JSON querying, etc. Any features, any functionality, any code that you can make in SingleStore, you'll be able to use all of those in Looker as well. So there you go. This is what we're going to do. Talk about what is a Looker project, because I've created one for you, but I want you to know what it is. I'll show you how to create a connection as well. We don't really want to recreate 50 different connections today, so we'll share one together. And to share one together, we'll have a central Looker model that we'll be sharing. Because it's integrated with Git, each of us will be in a separate branch, so we won't be interfering with each other. In real life, what would happen is that you would do your own testing in your branch, and then you would merge it. And then lastly, we'll get on with it. So we'll actually enter, add information to the model file, add the measures, add the KPIs, dimensions, etc., and then use that to create the dashboards and the reports. So if you follow all the instructions in the PDF, this is what you'll end up with. By the end of the session with me, you'll probably just have one of these tiles. But that's the first step. Once you know how to create one tile, you know how to create 10 tiles, right? It's going to be the same. A lot of these metrics are actually going to be reused. So after creating the first one, probably what takes the longest, then it goes faster and faster as you're actually reusing some of the content that you've already created. There's quite a few terms in Looker. Some terms are specific, like LookML, and some terms are a bit more generic, like dimensions and measures. But essentially, a LookML project is the top level that contains all the files that are going to be describing the database, and they're going to be describing all the things that you want to calculate, all the SQL that you want Looker to write. And that actually interacts directly with your GitHub repo so that there's no version control. And then each person is going to be working in the development branch, whereas a business user, a person that is not a developer, would be interacting with the production branch. So kind of ensuring that whatever development you're doing is not going to mess up what everybody else is doing until you're ready to actually commit and deploy it. You can see that things are also, well, you don't know that, but it's very much based on SQL, right? So if you already know SQL, it's going to be a very easy learning curve. Things like joins, things like sums and averages and aggregations, all these things are can be very recognizable. It'll just be a slightly different syntax, but we'll talk through that when we actually go and look at the model. Talking about that, let's get started. So hopefully you've been able to do step one, If you haven't, then please just go back in that sheet, grab the login that's on your user line. The address is in the chat. You can also see it on my screen in the top left corner. And this should be your welcome, your homepage essentially when you log in, right? Little bit different. So if you imagine getting started, if you have a completely blank, empty Looker instance, the first thing you want to do is actually connect it to your database. And that's something that as an administrator, you will be able to do, right? So you're all administrator, well, you're all developers. So I'm an administrator, so I'll show you how to actually establish this connection. In a future project, I would assume you're probably likely to be an administrator, so you would do that. So the one I created for this Dev Days Lab AWS, we can take a look, and it's pretty straightforward. Essentially, you're giving a name to the connection. It's going to be using a JDBC driver. It's all provided for you. In the drop-down, you're selecting the version of SingleStore. You should be using 7+, but there's also regular, well, older version, you can use SingleStore. And then simply specifying, where is the cluster, what are the login details to actually access the data, right? Pretty straightforward. For security, it's good to have SSL activated. And then based on that, you can just click test, and hopefully we'll get confirmation, there you go, that we can connect, right? All of this information here that you need to enter, you will have established it when you created a SingleStore. If you go back into your SingleStore management dashboard, you can also find this information so that you can then go and enter it in here. So I've done that for you to keep things simple. Now that we have this connection between Looker and SingleStore, we're actually able to access data. The way Looker is going to want to make the data available to the users for reporting, for dashboards and the like, is through that modeling layer, through the LookML. So you would want to actually go and create a new project. Now, so that's task 3. In this case, again, that's the second step that, it's the second step that we've done for you. This is also the last step that we've done for you. Following that, it'll be for all of us to work together, and you can actually go and make those modifications on your side. So the way you would create the project is in the develop dropdown. There is a manage LookML project section, which allows me to see the ones I already created. It also allows me to create a new one. When I want to create a new one, I actually get a word of warning here. And it tells me that to create, edit, or test your LookML model, you need to be in development mode, right? So actually, all of us today, because I'm trying to create it, but you're all going to be trying to edit it. So we all need to be in development mode. That's actually accessible directly in the dropdown. The first toggle here, I can go and activate that. So in the develop menu, there is a toggle I can click, and you'll know straight away if you've done that successfully, because there's now a big blue bar at the top, right? So if I were to create a new project, I would then give it a name. I would pick, most generally, we want Looker to generate the model automatically to minimize how much typing we have to do. We would select a connection, and then I can actually say, hey, go and create this project. When we create this project, Looker is, oh, this project already exists. Looker is actually going to go and read the schema and create a representation of the data, both in terms of what the tables are and what the relationships are. So let's talk a little bit about that, which is going to be here, task 4 in your PDF. Looker did this for you, right? So it automatically generated two types of file. One is a view file, and those are the representation of the tables, essentially. It tells you if you click on this file, those are text files, tells you, hey, for this table here, these are all the columns that existed. We've gone ahead and created a dimension for you. That's done it for all the table to which Looker had access within the connection that you established. It also created a model file. And the model file is about actually exposing the data to users and also exposing the data as a group of data, as sets of data, which we call an explorer. For example, drivers and trips can be joined on a trip ID. And so Looker kind of automatically detected that for you. You can very much also add, modify, customize any other join that might be needed, right? Based on what's being declared in here. Now, I created this new project. At the moment, it's not connected to Git. You can see that in the top right corner, it's not connected to Git, so we wouldn't be able to collaborate on this. So my next step is actually to go and connect that to Git. Which means that we're not going to be using this one today. What we're going to be using is the other project called Dev Days Taxi Basic. Right. So just in case, task 5 is to enable development mode if you haven't done so yet. And then now in task 6, we're actually going to have a quick look at what has been generated. Right. So this file is very, very similar to the one that we were looking at in the new project that I created. All we've done is actually comment out a few of the additional explorers that we're not going to be needing today. Now, a lot of the cool things that we're going to be using today with this data set is related to the geospatial functions. And so actually what we're going to be able to do is join the neighborhood information to the trips data. And that way we'll be able to see where do the trips come and go. Because we want to see where they came and where they went, we actually need to join the neighborhood data twice. One is going to be the pickup place, and one is going to be the drop-off place. The way we would join the trips and the neighborhood is going to be based on a join. Now, to keep things simple, we've actually provided you with the code with that we want to paste in the model here, and that's going to be in task 6. So I'm actually going to do that as well. Just going to go and copy this and paste it over here. Oh yeah, be careful, there's a page 41 in the middle there that you don't want. There we go. So let's have a quick look and see what we've done here. So one thing that hasn't changed is we already had a join with the driver table. That's already there. But we've added 2 new joins, one for the pickup neighborhood and one from the drop-off neighborhood. Now, interestingly, we're actually using the same table twice. So the table that we're using is going to be neighborhoods, but we've given it an alias so that Looker can identify which one do we care about, which join do we care about based on the context. So one is aliased as pickup and one is aliased as drop-off. Secondly, we've essentially told Looker that when we want to use this table, the join is actually a geography intersect, right? So one of the geographical function available in SingleStore. Don't forget to copy paste. I just did a little bit of editing in here to make it look nice. Don't forget to delete the number 41. Also, make sure that you have the correct number of brackets. If you have an error, it's probably because you have one too many or one too few of these closing brackets here, right? And when I had the error earlier, it kind of tells you an X, right? So it tells you what to look for typically. There, so I'll go ahead and save this. And now I've got Explore. What did I do? Let's just give you a little bit of context here. In this Explore for trips, so I can look at the Explore for trips. I like to open things in different tabs just so that I don't have to go. It's easier to go back and forth. We have in this interface actually access now not only to driver and trips, but we also have access to pick up neighborhoods and drop off neighborhoods. We could already click on a few things and see what happens, right? So if we wanted to see the list of driver IDs, for example, still logged in, we can see that the background looker is generating the SQL. And if I grab information from different tables, it's going to do the joins as and when required, essentially, right? And if I click this run button, it's actually going to go and send those requests to SingleStore and return the results. Now, I kind of want these reports to be a bit meaningful. At the moment, my measures, so the KPIs, are pretty limited. Same thing in terms of what the measures, the dimensions might be. Maybe there's some new things I want to create. And the place where I would go and define these new KPIs and these new dimensions is, again, in the model. Right, so that would be switching on to task 7. So I'm just going to do a quick check on the chat whether there's anything here. No, we're still good. No questions so far. Let me circle back. So one of the things that's suggested as an example of a new dimension is to actually add just the full name of the drivers, right? So the driver information is in the driver's view, is coming from this driver's table. We have these dimensions that are related to the different columns. And actually, all of this is reusable, right? So if I were to create here a new dimension, right? I just pasted it in here. I could have just as well typed it in. I'm actually able to use A, SQL functions, such as concat, B, actually reuse dimensions that exist already in Looker, right? So this weird purple notation, that's a referencing system. So this is a reference to last name, it's just below, and this is a reference to first name, which is just here, all right? This function concat is the concatenation function that SingleStore uses. So the SQL is going to be specific to the database that we are connected to, right? So in the driver's view, I can copy and paste actually this example for a full name, and again, click save in the top right corner for this to take effect. How do I know that it's taking effect? Well, in my explore area where I was earlier, whereas if right now, full name is in there, I'll simply have to refresh the page. All right, so I'll just tell the interface to kind of reload with the new information that I've created, such as full name. And if I were to select that, the SQL for it is going to be exactly what I told it to do. Once again, in my driver's view, I was able to define a new dimension, and this new dimension that I've defined instantly becomes available, well, after a refresh of the page, but pretty much instantly available in my explore area. So I can now select it to include in my reporting. Now, let's try to create a report with its full name, right? So if we were to select that, I can just click on it to add it to my table. I can also maybe count how many trips they've done, right? Quite straightforward. I could add filters. So if I want to know where, if I want to restrict where the people were being picked up, for example, I could filter, which is this little save looking triangle, right? And if you hit it, you'll know because it pops up at the top. And we can also enter a value for the drop-off neighborhood if we chose to, right? So you can actually use any of these fields from any of these tables as filters, right? So you can click on them, you can add them as fields, you can add them as filters, you can pivot them, which is the two little arrows here. All of that is available for any of the fields from any of the tables. We probably want to add some values in here. So I'll say that the pickup, let's say pickup is equal to Manhattan, and this list here is actually automatically populated directly from SingleStore. So these are the different values that are available. And I'll say that the drop-off is not equal to Manhattan, right? So we'll see kind of the people that are starting in Manhattan and ending up somewhere else. So we can see the SQL here. There's these restrictions in the where clause, the joins, everything that's needed, etc. I can run this, and I'm going to get all the results, or at least the first 500. So there's quite a few of them. If I wanted to say get a top 15, like the exercise is asking us to do, in the row limit on the right here, I can just say, hey, just give me the top 15. I'll just rerun that quickly to get the right number, and we get the results, right? So we actually have a table with the name of all the drivers, the top 15 drivers, and how many trips they've counted. Just above this, there is a visualization area, visualization tab, which I can open, and that allows me to now see all these drivers, in sending order. Feels like the Thompson and the Williams family have taken over the business here, really. Good for them. Now, all the visualizations are customizable in terms of, obviously you can change the colors and all these things. And so we're going to do that in a second. Just before I show you that step, I just want to kind of repeat all the fields on the left are the fields that are coming from your modeling layer. You can select them by clicking on them. You can filter them by clicking on the little triangle and just edit the values. Once you've selected everything that you want with the filters and the fields, there's a run button in the top right corner, and that's what's actually sending the query to SingleStore, and then SingleStore is returning the results to us for visualization. Okay, no questions. Now, colors, dates, etc. In the visualization, there's a little gear in the bar that allows you to choose, the layout, allows you to choose the colors, allows you to choose all these things, right? So if you don't like the color, you can go and change them. You can actually customize specifically the values, the color of this series. We can also display value labels. We can modify, the X and Y axes. Do you need to show the name of the label or not? Do we want to show those kind of grid lines in the background or not? Of all these type of options, you're more than welcome to have a play with them, tweak, make this look and feel something that you like. Oops. And once you end up with a style that is of your liking, this is actually going to be the first visualization that we're going to use in our dashboard. So again, you have a visualization by default. You're able to pick the type of visualization in this bar. You are able to customize further the look and feel of the visualization by clicking on the little gear and essentially navigating through these tabs. If we're happy with what we've got, in the other little gear icon next to the run button, we can actually go and save that as a look, which is a single visualization, right? So if you want it by itself, we can save that as a look. In this case, what we want to do is actually save it to a dashboard. So I can go and choose the option just below, right? There are other options around downloading the data, sending it. So if you wanted to email it, for example, to someone, you can do that. If you just wanted to share it with a colleague, just grab the URL and send that over. It's much easier. And in this case, save to dashboard, right? So that's, again, going to come up with a pop-up. Everyone should have access to a personal folder. In my case, it's my name. In your case, it should be lab user underscore a certain number. So that's where we want to be saving things. Kind of save it in your personal folder so you don't create a mess for everyone else. It's actually like where people can save things, actually a feature that can be enabled or disabled. Now, note that right now your tile is called new tile. So we probably want to give it another name. A suggested name is Crosstown Traffic Top 15. And I'm going to add the word driver in there because not necessarily obvious. And there aren't any dashboard to save it to. Right, so and the save to dashboard is actually grayed out, but if you look on the other corner, you can see that there's a new dashboard button. So I just clicked on that, and there's another pop-up that appears, and that just asks me for a name for that dashboard. There aren't any other settings to have to pick up in advance. It's literally just asking you for a name, and then we'll be able to open it, and anything else can be configured. So my dev day taxi dashboard. Okay. Looker is creating that in the background. This brand new dashboard is actually currently empty, but it exists in my personal folder. And when I click Save to Dashboard, this tile here, you can see the background, is now going to be added to this taxi. All right. At this point in time, there are really two things you can do. You can jump to the dashboard. You can jump to the dashboard directly. We're going to do that. Or you could create a new visualization, right, and add it to the dashboard as well. So I'll briefly show you that. We still have a bit of time. So quick shortcut here, Control K or Command K if you have a Mac, clears everything up. I'm going to do a very, very simple visualization, which is just counting how many trips we have. I'm going to run that. I'm going to say I want to see this data as a single value. It did that automatically for me. And I also want to save that to my dashboard. Right, very simple. In this case, if I go back to my folder, my dashboard is already there. So I can just select it. Don't forget to give this a name, total trips. And again, I can save it. So now there are actually two tiles on my dashboard. I haven't seen it yet, but there are two tiles there. So a quick shortcut to go to it directly from here is actually in this green bar. if I click on the name of the dashboard, it's going to take me there. There you go. I've got 2 tiles. They're not necessarily arranged how I would like them to be, but these are the 2 reports I created and that I added to my dashboard. So kind of next step, what do we want to do? We want to customize it to make sure that it looks how I want it to be, and potentially we want to go again and add more and more visualizations. So to edit it, to be able to customize it, there are 3 little dots in the top right corner. Click on that, edit dashboard, and now I can move things around, right? I can move things, I can resize things, I can be happy with this. That's that. From a dashboard, you are also able to add filters. So if you want to filter on the neighborhood, if you want to filter on the driver name, if you want to filter on any of the fields that exist, you'll be able to simply add that. You're also able to add visualization and tiles directly from here. So the add tile button, I can go and add a visualization. The interface is actually very much the same. So it's an explore interface that we were looking at earlier. I can again go and click on trips or statuses or drivers or whatever it is, right? So if I find the driver count this time, I could go and save that, give it a name directly in top left corner, driver count. Click run if you want to see, preview what this is going to look like, and then save it. And now I have a third tile, and I can go and add it next to the other one. Maybe these should be a little bit bigger. You get the idea. You can customize how things work. Once you're happy with that, don't forget to hit the save button again, right? So you want to save, you want to hit the save button again. This is, I don't know, a quarter of your first dashboard, right? Looking at what your end state will be, and there is, I believe, an example of that here. Gonna load. Yes, perfect. Some of the metrics are going to be the same. Some of the metrics are actually going to be new ones, right? So things like rides in progress, drivers en route. These metrics are not metrics that exist yet. And so it is for you to go back into this model and actually go and create the additional, just make this more in the middle here, additional measures that might be needed for those styles. And the tasks in the PDF actually walk you very neatly through this to make sure that you can follow along. They also typically give you an example of the code that you can use, or copy paste if you're a little bit lazy like me or you want to move faster, right? So for example, how do I calculate the average number of rider? It's going to be a measure of type average. I want to average the number of riders, and I want to format it this way, right? So these are the types of things, the types of measures that you'll need to be able to complete the dashboard. Simply we'll carry on working through the PDF, and you'll see more and more advanced dimensions, more and more advanced measures. Going to give you an idea of what can be accomplished in Looker. This first example was very simple, but anything that you can do in SQL, anything that you can do in SingleStore, you'll actually be able to do it in Looker as well, right? So you're not losing any capabilities. You're instead gaining flexibility, version control, and you're enabling other users that are non-technical to actually be able to leverage your knowledge to create reports and to explore the data.
Awesome. Thank you, Sebastian. That was wonderful. I hope the students have now a good knowledge of how to work with Looker and you know, put it all together, create beautiful dashboards. So I just want to take a second to go over this high level architecture slide that we had in the beginning, so that I can let you guys in on what we did today. All right.
Yeah.
So great. So what we did here was we brought the drivers, trips, and the neighborhoods data from the Kafka pipeline. We ingested it into our SingleStore database. We also were able to connect using Saurabh's help, the Glue connector and the Spark connector to use the machine learning model that we have prepared. And you will be able to go through that in the appendix section. And then when that live data comes in, we are scoring it, we're putting that data back into SingleStore, and then we are visualizing it in Looker. So that was the flow of our lab today. I saw a few questions come in, great questions, and I answered them privately as it seemed to be a one-off question with some access issues, and I hope you were able to get through that. And by the end of it, as Sebastian mentioned, there are different exercises in the student guide, which will help you build this beautiful looking dashboard from the data that we have. And I did notice that I skipped over one slide which talks about our pipeline. So these were the pipelines. This is the slide that I skipped over, and I wanted to quickly go through it before we conclude here. So the pipelines that we started, they are hosted in this public topics, which are in slide 54. The neighborhood data is in this public bucket, that's memsql data feeds nyc taxi data. And if you see the word memsql or mem before, we used to be called as memsql before. We rebranded last year as SingleStore. We used to have a world-class in-memory data store, and then we added a columnar store on top of it. And since then, we have rebranded ourselves to align with our vision and our future. And some of the pipeline features are in this slide that I wanted to go through. You are able to feed a pipeline into a stored procedure. As we saw, you're able to execute Python scripts on this incoming data. You're able to use scoring mechanisms to score the data as it comes in. Pipelines can get data from an S3, a Kafka feed, a Hadoop system, or a file system, and you were able to score it with the external code. And some of the hands-on exercises today showcase this, that we are able to create a UDF, stored procedure, an array, and also bring it all together. And if you have like a predictive machine learning model out there or any other model out there, we're able to score that. And as we did today, I wanted to quickly go through those before we concluded today. I also want to thank Sebastian and Saurabh for delivering great, in detail presentation to our students here. And I also want to thank the team behind putting together this presentation: Ritesh, Ken, Diego. Thank you guys so much, and it wouldn't have been possible without you guys. And most importantly, thank you guys who joined in, the students who were patient and followed through. If you had any questions, please feel free to reach out. You will be sent the recording, and these are our emails. Please, we always are here to improve. If you have any feedbacks, also please feel free to shoot over. And I hope we see you again in the next Dev Day or any other webinar that we are hosting. Thank you so far, and I hope you have a very good rest of your day.